Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another watch list. Basically, think of this as a monthly TV guide for me to let you know what and when TV shows that I'm interested in and maybe you're interested in are coming out. Like always, in the description down below, I'll include any links to any trailers that might be available about anything that I bring up during this watch list. On August 5th on the CW, we have this new series called Coroner, which new is kind of a stretch because it seems like, I think it's a syndication situation where like the show aired somewhere else and now it's getting syndicated on the CW. Because I was looking at some stuff that's already like a season 2 trailer out, so like it's one of those situations. But nevertheless, just from the trailer, it seemed like an interesting show. It seems like a crime drama, kind of a police procedural, but I think it's taken a very interesting turn to in this particular, you know, different shows do their different things to kind of have their own take on things. In this case, it seems like they're following a coroner, and I can only think of like a handful of shows that really do that, only like 2. I've never seen it, but Body of Proof on ABC, and obviously since it's a CW, it's kind of like, you know, iZombie, because obviously that's what Liv and Robbie kind of, you know, did in iZombie. But regardless, basically it seems like we're following a coroner who's basically kind of got this reputation, at least maybe around the people that care about her, that the fact of the matter is she's kind of got an unhealthy, you know, fascination with death. So I think it's a situation where it's like it's easier to kind of connect with a dead body than it is living people. It seems like that might be the direction they go down. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, because it seems like she lost her husband, and I'm not sure if that's what kind of sent her spiraling, because it seems like she's also a single mother now and everything. So it seems like an interesting crime drama that I'm, you know, interested to check out. On August 9th on Showtime, we have this new series called We Hunt Together. It seems like a very interesting series, just from the trailer. Basically, it seemed like this guy was protecting this woman who was about to be like assaulted, but it seems like from there things kind of spiral and they kind of go a little hardcore vigilante about it. Like, and I think in the sense that like they try and track down people who take advantage of, you know, women, in particular men, and, you know, kind of lure them in and then kill them. Because I think it's a situation where maybe these guys have done stuff before, or what. I'm not really 100% sure how they end up picking their victims. So I'm curious, you know, maybe we'll get more insight to that in the show. But it's one of those interesting shows where it is that kind of cat and mouse thing where it's like they're all kind of doing almost like their Bonnie and Clyde thing, more vigilante than like, you know, robbers like, you know, Bonnie and Clyde. But there's also like the law side of things where we have these 2 officers coming after them. One seems like she's been doing the job for a while, but her new partner is kind of someone who's new to homicide and stuff like that. But like I said, it just seems like that interesting cat and mouse situation, because it almost, the way this trailer kind of paints it, it makes it seem like it isn't just kind of like, oh, we're doing justice, we're trying to do, they're not just trying to do the right thing. It's almost like she kind of likes this, because they're even saying like, oh, you get off basically being in control and being able to manipulate people. So the argument it becomes like, well, the dude she's with, if she's manipulating him, or is what they have is real? Like, that becomes a lot of those questions, I think. The thing, and this probably be a weird comparison, it kind of reminds me of the End of the Effing World, but if you took out all the like dark comedy elements of the End of the Effing World and just made it purely serious, it seems like it kind of has a feeling vibe similar to that, you know, like, especially because the 2 leads, their relationship kind of reminds me a little bit of James and Alyssa, just to a certain extent. Obviously, these very different characters, different story, but that's immediately what popped in my head. On August 16th, we had this new series on HBO called Lovecraft Country. Essentially, it seems like the story, I think from what I was reading, is set in the 1950s. And basically this family like is trying to, well, it's obviously, considering the times and everything, not the easiest time to be black, and I think it probably even more so wherever this story ends up taking place. But essentially this family, they kind of have like a legacy that's been left to them by like maybe some long dead family. It's something that's kind of been in their family, and they go to this country or county or whatever where that is all at. And I guess it's like it's a big house and everything, but it's like, considering the times and stuff like that, they're in a city that they're in a place that they're not necessarily wanted, obviously. But the interesting thing is that there's also like this where the Lovecraft aspect of it comes in is that there are Lovecraftian elements to it, because it seems like there's like this fantasy, like supernatural, science fictional angle to it. While they're dealing with just it seems like a lot of the people in town might know about a lot of this stuff. It might be kind of like, oh, these racist, terrible people are actually part of like some like supernatural thing. Like we see some like monstrous stuff. It's an interesting series, because I know like Jordan Peele's associated with it, so is J.J. Abrams. Just from the trailer alone, it seems interesting. Like you wouldn't correlate those, like it just seems so interesting, because it almost seems like two different shows put together. But I was actually reading up on it a little bit, that this is actually based on a book of, you know, the same name. I think the book came out in like 2008, but obviously I'm not much of a book reader. But ever since I saw the teaser for this stuff, I thought it was really fascinating. So I'm really interested in, you know, to check the show out and see kind of what everything's fully about, like where the story takes us, because it seems dark and interesting. On August 18th on the CW, we have a new series called Dead Pixels. Much like Coroner, this doesn't seem like it's a technically new series, because it seems like it's a British show that has already aired. But regardless, it's indicating on the CW now here in the US. It's this comedy series where basically you follow like these apparently like three friends who are basically obsessed with one particular video game, and it seems like it's just a show about them just being so obsessed with it and just kind of like them ignoring their real life just for this virtual life, which obviously I'm sure there's like shenanigans ensue. Like I only saw like the trailer I looked at was like a 41-second trailer. There might be something out there longer, but I'd rather not know too much, you know, about the jokes and stuff like that. But it seemed interesting. And I'm curious to kind of, you know, it might be one of those comedies that like has that heavily comedy side, but it might also have a little bit of that like, oh, life lessons, morals of the story type of situation. Maybe not. Maybe it's a thing of they don't learn anything and it's just shenanigans ensue. Either way, it seems interesting and I plan to check it out. And finally on my list, on August 21st on Netflix, we have the 5th season of Lucifer. In particular, I should note season 5 part 1, because I did remember reading a while back that basically, I think, because Lucifer season 5 was supposed to be like the final season originally, but I think because things have potentially changed, like they are like breaking this 5th season into 2 parts, because I think the season was supposed to be 16 episodes, which obviously Netflix doesn't really ever go that long, because last season 4 was only 10 episodes, but I think that's why they're breaking it up into 2 parts. Whatever the case may be, I'm excited to have Lucifer back. We're going to be entering spoilers, so if you haven't seen a trailer, I do apologize, but obviously we're picking up after season 5. Lucifer's been in hell for, once again, the time frame doesn't really expressly tell us how long he's been there, and obviously everyone who's connected to him, in particular Chloe and Maze, are trying to find out what their lives are like, you know, now that he's gone, you know, trying not, because they kind of, you know, in particular for Chloe, she's been diving into work and hanging out with Maze to kind of, you know, fill that void a little bit. But then Lucifer pops back up, but then it's also a thing of like, oh, we're happy to have you back, but you seem a little different. When we get the twist where it's actually not Lucifer, it's his twin brother Michael, who talks about like, oh, I don't want to destroy Lucifer's life, I'm going to take it, you know. And so that, once again, I talked about it before in a trailer discussion. I love the fact is that, once again, I love any opportunity we get to meet more of their siblings and stuff like that. So obviously it's going to lead to some interesting clashes. I'm curious to see what this means, especially with the season being broken up, that maybe this is like the story of the first half of the season, and then like the second half is going to be something completely different, or maybe it correlates, so maybe this first half of the season ends on a cliffhanger. I don't really know what to 100% expect, but regardless of it all, I am very excited to have Lucifer back, and I'm so curious to see where everything takes us going forward into this season. And so that brings this month's watch list to an end. Like always, if there's something that's coming out that maybe I wasn't aware of, that you think maybe me or someone else would be interested in, don't be afraid to leave it in the comments down below. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.